Jake's unforgettable party had a deadly surprise, a live panther. It attacked, and he pointed the finger at me. I fought back, digging for truth. Then someone sabotaged my car, and I knew who did it. I got a text from my best friend, Jake, one sunny afternoon in Los Angeles. "Party at my place this weekend," it read. "It's gonna be unforgettable, Matt. You in?" My heart skipped a beat. Jake's parties were legendary, always packed with music, drinks, and a vibe that made you feel alive. We'd been tight since high school, sharing secrets over late-night tacos at Venice Beach. I trusted him like a brother. So when he said unforgettable, I was hooked. I replied, "Hell yeah, I'm there." His house in the Hollywood Hills was a sleek, modern sprawl with glass walls and a pool that glowed under neon lights. Jake was an Instagram influencer, always chasing the next big moment to keep his followers buzzing. Lately, though, he'd been quieter online, and I wondered if he was planning something huge to make a comeback. He dropped hints about a special surprise for the party, and my curiosity spiked. Was it a celebrity DJ? A crazy light show? Knowing Jake, it'd be wild. As the weekend neared, I couldn't shake a weird feeling. Jake kept texting, hyping it up, saying, "This one's gonna blow your mind, Matt." I laughed it off, picturing him grinning with that infectious energy of his. I spent the day picking out a sharp outfit, something that'd fit in with the LA crowd. By Saturday evening, I was driving up the winding roads to his place, the city lights twinkling below. My stomach buzzed with excitement, but there was this tiny knot of unease I couldn't explain. When I pulled up, cars lined the street, music thumped from inside, and people spilled onto the lawn, laughing and clinking glasses. Jake greeted me at the door, his smile wide but his eyes darting, like he was holding on to a secret. "Ready for the night of your life?" he asked, slinging an arm around me. I nodded, stepping into the chaos, clueless about what was coming. Little did I know, that night would turn my world upside down, and not in the way I'd hoped. The party was in full swing when I stepped into Jake's Hollywood Hills mansion. The air buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and a pulsing beat from the speakers. Neon lights bounced off the glass walls, casting wild colors across the crowd. I grabbed a drink, weaving through familiar faces and strangers, all hyped up on the LA nightlife vibe. Jake was everywhere, playing the perfect host, his grin electric as he high-fived people. But his eyes kept flickering, like he was waiting for something big. I brushed it off, sipping my drink, soaking in the energy. About an hour in, Jake climbed onto a table, cup raised. "Yo, everyone, listen up!" he shouted. The music cut, and heads turned. My stomach tightened. This was it, his big surprise. "Follow me upstairs. I've got something insane to show you." The crowd cheered, buzzing with curiosity. I followed, caught up in the excitement, though that knot of unease grew heavier. We climbed the spiral staircase to a hallway lined with sleek doors. Jake led us to a massive room at the end, dim and quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos below. In the center stood a huge object draped in black cloth. Jake paused, milking the moment, then yanked the cloth away. Gasps ripped through the room. A massive cage gleamed under the low lights, and inside paced a sleek black panther, its eyes glowing like embers. My heart stopped. A real, live panther? At a party? The crowd murmured, some laughing nervously, others snapping photos. I stood frozen, my drink forgotten, as the beast's low growl vibrated through the floor. Jake beamed, loving the chaos. "Pretty wild, right?" he said, but his voice had an edge. Then some idiot, probably drunk, stumbled toward the cage, waving his phone like it was a toy. "Yo, let's get a selfie," he slurred, sticking his hand too close. The panther lunged, claws slashing at the bars, its roar splitting the air. Screams erupted. The guy jerked back, blood dripping from a scratch on his arm. The cage rattled as the animal slammed against it, eyes wild. Panic surged through me. This was no stunt. This was dangerous. People shoved toward the door. I turned, heart pounding, and bolted downstairs, the chaos swelling behind me. A piercing shriek cut through the noise, followed by footsteps thundering down the stairs. I didn't look back. I sprinted out the front door, the cool night air hitting my face. My car was parked blocks away, and I ran, legs burning, mind racing. What the hell was Jake thinking? I reached my car, jumped in, and sped off, the city lights blurring past. My hands shook on the wheel. I'd escaped, but something told me this nightmare was far from over. I spent the next few days in a daze, holed up in my downtown LA apartment, trying to shake the image of that panther's glowing eyes. The party played on a loop in my head, Jake's smug grin, the cage rattling, that idiot's bloody arm. I kept telling myself it wasn't my problem. I'd gotten out unharmed, hadn't I? But my gut churned, like trouble was lurking just out of sight. I avoided my phone, ignored texts from friends asking what happened. I just wanted to forget it all. Then, on Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I picked up, hesitant. "This is Detective Harris, LAPD, a gruff voice said. My stomach dropped. He explained that someone had been seriously injured at Jake's party, mauled by the panther before it was contained. They needed my statement since I was there. I nodded into the phone, my throat dry, and agreed to come to the station. I figured I'd tell them what I saw and be done with it. Simple, right? Wrong. At the precinct, Detective Harris leaned across the table, his eyes hard. "We've got multiple witnesses saying you brought the panther to the party, Matt." My heart stopped. "Me?" I laughed, thinking thinking it was a joke, but his face didn't budge. That's insane, I stammered. I was just a guest. Jake hosted the party. He brought the damn thing. But Harris slid a report toward me, listing names people I barely knew, claiming I'd been seen handling the cage, bragging about the panther. My head spun. These were lies, flat-out lies. I felt the walls closing in. My voice cracked as I insisted it was Jake's idea, not mine. But the detective's skepticism was clear. We'll need more than your word, he said. My chest tightened. Jake, my best friend since high school, had thrown me under the bus. Why? To save himself? To keep his influencer image clean? I left the station in a fog, my hands shaking. I wasn't just scared, I was furious. Betrayed. The guy I'd trusted for years had pinned this mess on me, and now I was facing serious charges. Reckless endangerment, they said. Possible jail time. My life was unraveling, and I hadn't done a damn thing. I knew one thing for sure. I needed help, and I needed it fast. I drove home from the police station, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, Los Angeles traffic blurring past. My mind was a mess. Jake's betrayal stung like a knife in the back. How could he pin this on me? I needed someone in my corner, someone who could fight dirty if it came to that. My uncle's old lawyer, Michael, popped into my head. Years ago, he'd saved Uncle Dave from an embezzlement charge that should have landed him in prison. The evidence was stacked against Dave bank records, forged emails, the works, but Michael tore it apart like a magician pulling a tablecloth out from under a set dinner table. By the end, the case collapsed, and Dave walked free. I didn't know if he was guilty or not, but I knew Michael was a damn genius. If anyone could save me, it was him. I called Michael that night, my voice shaky as I explained the situation. He didn't hesitate. Meet me tomorrow, Matt. We'll sort this out. His calm tone steadied me, but I barely slept, haunted by the thought of jail time. The next morning, I met him at his sleek office in Century City, all glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed money. Michael was in his 50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. He leaned back in his chair, listening as I spilled everything: the party, the panther, Jake's lies, the witnesses. When I finished, he didn't flinch. You're in deep, kid, he said, tapping a pen on his desk. Reckless endangerment, potential bodily harm charges. You could be looking at years behind bars if we don't play this right. My stomach churned. Years? I felt like I was drowning. Michael leaned forward, his voice low but firm. Here's the deal. Those witnesses, they're lying or they're scared. Either way, we'll crack them. And Jake, he's the key. He set this up and we're gonna prove it. I nodded, clinging to his confidence. He started laying out a plan dig into Jake's life, his motives, his connections. This wasn't just a party stunt, Michael said. Guys like Jake don't rent wild animals for kicks. There's a reason, and it's probably tied to his ego or his wallet. We started with my alibi. I'd left the party early, hadn't touched the cage, hadn't even known about the panther until Jake unveiled it. Michael jotted notes, his mind already racing. We need evidence, he said. Text messages, social media, anything tying Jake to that animal. I remembered Jake's cryptic texts about the unforgettable party and handed over my phone. Michael scrolled through, his eyes narrowing. This is a start, he said, but we need more. Jake's not dumb enough to leave a paper trail, but he's not as smart as he thinks. He sent me home with orders to stay low and avoid Jake. Don't talk to anyone from that night, he warned. Not until we know who's lying. I left his office feeling a flicker of hope, but the weight of those charges still pressed down on me. Jake had betrayed me, and now I was fighting for my freedom. As I drove back to my apartment, the LA skyline glowing under the sunset, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much uglier fight. I sat in my apartment, the LA skyline glowing faintly through my window, but I couldn't relax. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump, Jake's betrayal gnawing at me. Michael was working overtime, digging into Jake's life, and I was itching for answers. A few days later, he called me to his Century City office. I rushed over, weaving through traffic, my heart pounding with anticipation. Michael didn't waste time. He slid a stack of papers across his desk, his face grim but focused. Jake's not just your friend, Matt. He's a desperate man, he said, and desperate men do stupid things. He pulled up Jake's Instagram on his laptop. I'd seen his posts before, glossy photos of parties, cars, and beach trips, all screaming, "Look at me." But Michael pointed to the numbers. Look at his engagement. 6 months ago, he was pulling thousands of likes, comments, shares. Now, barely 100. His followers are ghosting him. I leaned closer, confused. Jake lived for the clout. His whole identity was tied to being LA's party king. Why the drop? Michael flipped through screenshots of ex-posts, old ones I hadn't seen. He got canceled, he said flatly. Last year, a girl at one of his parties got hurt, badly. People blamed him for not stepping in. Hashtags, threads, the works. His brand tanked. My jaw tightened. Jake never told me about this. Michael kept going. He's an influencer, Matt. No engagement, no money. He was bleeding followers, sponsors pulling out. He needed something big to claw his way back. That's when it hit me. The panther. The unforgettable party. It wasn't just a stunt, it was a calculated move to go viral. I felt sick. So he brought a damn panther to his house for likes? I asked, my voice shaking. Michael nodded. Exactly. He planned it for weeks. We found emails, encrypted ones, to a shady contact about exotic entertainment. He paid $10,000 to rent that animal. I leaned back, my head spinning. Jake had always been obsessed with his image, but this, risking lives for clout, it was insane. Michael showed me more screenshots of Jake's posts hyping the party. party, dropping hints about a legendary night. Nobody paid attention then, but now it looked like a neon sign pointing to his guilt. He knew it'd cause chaos, Michael said. He wanted the videos, the hashtags, the buzz, but when it went south, he needed a fall guy. You were sober, visible, easy to pin it on. Anger burned in my chest, but then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. Drop the case or you'll regret it, the text read. My blood ran cold. I showed Michael, and his eyes narrowed. This is Jake's crew, he said. They're scared we're getting close. That night, I barely slept, jumping at every shadow. The next morning, another message. Back off, Matt. Then, a brick crashed through my window, glass shattering across my living room. I froze, heart pounding, staring at the jagged hole. This wasn't just a warning, it was a threat to my life. Michael was livid when I told him. We're not stopping, he said, his voice like steel. They're desperate because we're winning. He doubled down, digging deeper into Jake's contacts, his emails, anything to tie him to the Panther. I felt trapped, my life unraveling because of a friend I thought I knew, but I wasn't backing down. Jake had crossed a line, and I was done playing nice. Michael promised we'd find the dealer who supplied the Panther, the final nail in Jake's coffin. I clung to that hope, but as I drove home, checking my rearview mirror for tails, I couldn't shake the feeling that Jake's next move would be even worse. I drove home from Michael's office, the LA streets dark and quiet, but my nerves were on fire. The brick through my window last night still haunted me, glass shards still scattered across my living room floor. Jake's threats were escalating, and I felt like a target. My phone stayed silent now, but every buzz made my heart race, expecting another anonymous warning. Michael told me to stay sharp, keep my doors locked, and trust him to handle the evidence. But trust was hard when my best friend had already stabbed me in the back. That evening, I was driving through Echo Park, just a few blocks from my apartment, when something felt wrong. I pressed the brake pedal to slow for a light, but it sank to the floor, lifeless. My stomach lurched. I pumped it again, nothing. The car kept rolling, picking up speed down a slight hill. Streetlights blurred past, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Panic clawed at my chest. No brakes. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone had tampered with my car, and I knew exactly who. I yanked the emergency brake, the car jerking violently, tires screeching as it fishtailed. Horns blared from other drivers. I swerved, barely missing a parked SUV, my heart hammering like it would burst. The car slowed, grinding to a stop just inches from a streetlight. I sat there, gasping, sweat beading on my forehead, the world spinning. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and called Michael. Someone cut my brakes, I said, my voice barely steady. I almost died. Michael was at my place in under an hour, his calm demeanor gone. This is attempted murder, Matt, he said, his voice low and furious. Jake's desperate, and he's playing dirty. We had my car towed to a mechanic he trusted, a guy in Van Nuys who'd worked cases like this before. The next day, the mechanic confirmed it. The brake lines were deliberately severed, clean cuts, no accident. My blood ran cold. Jake wasn't just framing me, he wanted me gone. Michael paced his office when I told him, his jaw tight. This changes everything, he said. We've got the texts, the brick, now this. If we can tie it to Jake, he's done. I nodded, but fear gnawed at me. I wasn't just fighting for my name anymore. I was fighting for my life. Michael leaned forward, his eyes intense. We're close, Matt. The dealer, the footage, now this tampering. It's a house of cards, and Jake's at the top. We just need one more push. I left his office, glancing over my shoulder at every shadow. Jake's betrayal had already shattered my trust. But this was personal. I wasn't backing down, but I couldn't shake the dread. Jake was cornered, and a cornered man is dangerous. Michael promised we'd find the dealer next, the guy who'd rented Jake the Panther. That was our key to burying him. But as I walked to a rental car, my hands still trembling, I wondered what Jake would do next to stop us. I barely slept, the near crash replaying in my head, the screech of tires echoing. Los Angeles felt like a maze closing in, every corner hiding a threat. Michael was relentless, though, his focus like a laser. We need the dealer, he said over coffee at a diner in Silver Lake. The guy who rented Jake that Panther. He's our golden ticket to proving this was all Jake's doing. I nodded, my hands still shaky from the brake incident. Finding a black market animal dealer wasn't exactly like flipping through a phone book, but Michael had a plan. He'd traced a lead from Jake's emails, a string of encrypted messages about special arrangements for the party. Jake wasn't careful enough, leaving digital breadcrumbs. Michael cross-referenced them with posts on X, where Jake had bragged about something wild coming. One name kept popping up in shady corners of the internet. Carl, a guy known for renting exotic animals to rich idiots with too much money. He's our guy, Michael said, showing me a map pinpointing an industrial area in San Pedro, a gritty part of LA where deals like this went down. We drove to San Pedro the next day, the air thick with salt and diesel. The area was a maze of warehouses, rusted fences, and sketchy vibes. Michael played it cool, posing as a client looking for unique entertainment. Most people brushed us off, their eyes wary, but one nervous guy at a dive bar pointed us to a warehouse on the edge of town. Ask for Carl, he muttered, then vanished. My stomach churned as we approached the place. It reeked of animal musk and decay, the kind of smell that sticks to your skin. Inside, we found Carl, a wiry guy with a crooked grin, surrounded by crates and cages. footages. Michael didn't waste time. A friend of ours rented a panther from you, he said, dropping Jake's name. Carl's eyes flickered, but he relaxed when we played dumb, acting like we wanted to rent something ourselves. Jake paid me $10,000 for that cat, Carl admitted, shrugging. Said he needed a big show to get people talking. Didn't care about the risks. My blood boiled. Jake had planned this insanity, and I was paying the price. Michael pressed Carl, getting him to confirm details, dates, payments, even a text exchange where Jake demanded something dangerous. Carl wasn't thrilled about testifying, but Michael's charm and maybe a subtle threat of legal trouble convinced him to cooperate. As we left, Michael grinned. This is it, Matt. Carl's testimony ties Jake to the panther. Back in the car, I felt a spark of hope, but it was fragile. Jake was still out there, and he wasn't done fighting dirty. We had Carl, but we needed more to seal the deal. Michael said the next step was checking Jake's neighborhood for camera footage. If we could catch him on tape with the panther, it'd be game over. I was running on fumes, my nerves frayed from weeks of fear and betrayal. Los Angeles, once my playground, now felt like a battlefield. Michael's confidence kept me grounded, though. With Carl's testimony in our pocket, we had a shot at burying Jake, but we needed one final piece to make it airtight. Jake's neighborhood, Michael said, his eyes sharp. If we can get footage of him with that panther, he's done. I clung to that hope as we drove to his Hollywood Hills street, the mansions looming like silent witnesses. Jake's neighbor, Mrs. Carter, had a doorbell camera pointed right at his driveway. Michael knocked on her door, all charm and professionalism. We're investigating the party incident, he explained. Mind if we check your footage? She hesitated, her eyes flicking to me, but the news of the panther attack had her spooked enough to agree. We huddled in her living room, the screen flickering as she pulled up the footage. My heart pounded. There it was clear as day. A truck pulled up to Jake's house the afternoon of the party. Jake himself, in his signature flashy jacket, directed a crate being unloaded. The panther's low growl was audible even on the grainy video. My jaw dropped. This was it. Michael's grin was triumphant. Game over, he said, copying the footage. Back at his office, we pieced it all together. Carl's testimony, Jake's emails, and now this video. It was a slam dunk. We marched into the LAPD station the next day, evidence in hand. I sat across from Detective Harris, who looked skeptical until Michael laid it all out. The emails showed Jake planning the stunt for weeks, paying $10,000 for the panther. Carl's statement confirmed it. The footage sealed it. Jake, not me, brought that animal to the party. Harris's face hardened. We'll take it from here, he said. Days later, I got the call. Jake had been arrested reckless endangerment, falsifying statements, and now, thanks to the brake tampering, attempted assault. The charges against me were dropped. I exhaled, the weight lifting, but it left a hollow ache. My best friend had thrown me to the wolves for Instagram clout. I sat in my apartment, staring at the city lights, trying to process it. Jake's empire was crumbling, his followers ditched him, his sponsors gone, his name plastered across X as a reckless idiot. He was looking at years in prison, and part of me felt justice had been served, but another part, it hurt. We'd shared years of laughs, dreams, late-night drives down the Pacific Coast Highway. How did it come to this? Michael clapped me on the shoulder when we met to wrap things up. You're free, Matt. You fought, and you won. I nodded, but the victory felt bittersweet. I'd cleared my name, but I'd lost something to trust. Jake's betrayal taught me a brutal lesson. Even those closest to you can turn. I started avoiding parties, keeping my circle small, checking my locks twice. LA's glitter felt tarnished now. I'd survived, but the scars lingered. Every time I drove past the hills, I saw that panther's eyes, heard Jake's laugh, felt the sting of his lies. I was moving forward, but I'd never forget the night my world almost shattered, or the friend who tried to break it.